originally, and I went to school in Derry St Collins College, then moved. I went to university in Scotland, then to Maynooth in Ireland. I studied marine biology, theology, and became a teacher, then a journalist, and I ended up as Director of Communications in the European Parliament for the last 15 years.
Being born in Northern Ireland, during very difficult times, that must have been a fair eye-opener.
Yeah, it was. It was a time of great, let's say, tribal, national tension, where it was certainly emphasised the importance of national self-determination, and deciding our own destiny as a people was inbuilt at a very early age. And I had experience when I was about maybe 9 or 10 years of age, when my parents were off in Belfast. My older sister and myself were left in the house, and British soldiers came. They searched the back of the house, the garden, for bombs or guns or whatever they could find. And they came in with dogs and shovels, and they had a look around. And they found nothing, and they were a bit angry. I think they expected to find someone. And they were a bit angry, and there was a greenhouse at the back, and this British soldier, with the butt of his rifle, decided he would, because we were all Fenians, that he would smash up this greenhouse. And he did it in front of us, and even though I was young, I remember shouting at the window, but it put something in my head at a very young age that never give people not your own power over you, because they'll always act in their own self-interest, and they'll not act in your own interest. That's why, personally, I believe that the EU and multinational empires it's basically like the British Empire writ large. The British Empire was a political union in which we had 16% of the vote. In Westminster, in the European Union, is a political empire or political union in which we have 1% of the vote. I believe we can't afford the EU anymore. We're a net contributor to the EU budget since 2013, and in 2021 we gave 1.1 billion euro to the EU budget. So that's net. So when people say, "Oh, we need the EU," it gives us money.
That was then, this is now. We're a net contributor for 10 years, a very large contributor. And anyway, we don't need it for trade. Why is that? Because we export 32% of our goods to the US, and we export only 38% of our goods to the EU. So for a difference in 6% of our trade, or of our exports, we're in a political union to which we give a huge amount of money every year, and it robs us of our political sovereignty, of control over our own borders. Even our budgets, people may remember in around 2011 to 13, the Irish budget was seen and approved in the committees of the German Bundestag before it was even seen in Dáil Éireann. That was a scandalous moment and a real attack on Irish sovereignty. And also the Troika, the IMF, EU, European Commission, they imposed 64 billion bank debt upon us on the Irish taxpayer in 2013. That was another scandalous moment. So I believe
a difficult time.
Yeah, we're better off to control our own destiny. And I believe Irish people are simply good enough to make our own laws and decide our own destiny in this world. And we don't need laws to be made by people we don't elect elsewhere and imposed upon us against our will and against our interests.
And I suppose the government would say in that case is that, the idea is we're stronger together as a whole European Union and, many countries coming together. But maybe tell us a bit about the Irish Freedom Party. Are you the head of the party?
Yes, I'm currently president of the party. It's a party which is 5 years old. It has there's 3 constituencies in the European, I'll tell you about the party, what it stands for. So we started 5 years ago. We would, I think, broadly be classed as a nationalist, Eurosceptic party. We've a strong libertarian streak, so we're in favour of free speech, of free markets. We believe we're also a nationalist party. We believe the Irish people should democratically determine our own laws, our own budgets, our own borders. It should be, and we believe in Irish sovereignty, that Irish people, as I said, are good enough to make their own laws, decide everything themselves, and also that Irish men and women are mature and experienced and capable enough to run our own country. At the minute, the head of RTE is an Englishman. The head of the Commission Nemain, which is like almost like a censorship board, a media board, Englishman. Like we have Irish men and women more than experienced and more than capable to run our own affairs. So, in regards matters like,
but these people would be, you know, experienced. They're obviously hired to that job. So no one's saying they're not experienced in the role that they do, of course.
yeah, but I certainly think that this idea that Irish people are not capable enough to run our own affairs is false, and that the diaspora, we are very keen. For example, this was raised in Ballybay on Saturday night, that at the moment 21,000 young Irish people went to Australia last year. In many cases, these are the most talented and well-educated people in the country, and yet we should really, instead of taking in or importing so many people from around the world, we should really be trying everything within our capability to keep the young people that we have in our country, where if they want to live here in the country with their families, and also bring back many talented, well-educated Irish people abroad, that they can live in their homeland and bring up their families in Ireland, rather than having to take themselves off to Canada and England and Australia as they are at the moment.
And in fairness, Herman, nobody even in government or no one across the country would say otherwise. You know that it is terrible to see so many thousands of people leaving the country, and and there has been that way in a long number of years now, and it is obviously nobody wants to see that happening. So that I think everyone would agree with you on that.
We have to look at the cause of why they're leaving. One of the major causes, there's a multifaceted cause. I'm not going to boil it down to one reason, but like housing, like young people. Even when there's two young people who are married and they're both working, they find it virtually impossible to be able to buy a house. In some instances, even very difficult to find an apartment to rent. So in those circumstances, many people are saying, do you know what, I can go off and get better paid and I have better working conditions and I can afford a house if I go to Canada or Australia. And really, we have to examine ourselves as a country and say, do you know what, we need to do a lot more in Ireland to make sure that Ireland is a good place, that our children see a future in Ireland and they want to stay here and bring up their family here. Because at the moment, that's not happening.
You mentioned there you were in Ballybay last week, at the weekend.
Yes.
Maybe tell us a bit about that, I suppose, and the reason being in Ballybay, and I suppose the reason, for a bit of, I suppose it was a gathering of such, was it?
Yes. Yeah, it was, basically I was asked by that Facebook page, Ballybay Concerned Citizens. I know a man involved in it, Paul Gartland, and the committee that is involved in that group invited me to come as a guest speaker, and I did. I didn't speak about the details of the situation in Ballybay or the hotel that they were talking about. I talked in general terms about the situation in Ireland, and the situation is in regards immigration, and this is an aspect of sovereignty of Irish people being able to control their own borders, is that the population of Ireland since 1995 has increased by 1.1 million people, or 42%. That increase is absolutely huge, and if we look at the PPS numbers given out,
that's a good thing, I'd imagine.
Well, it's a double-edged sword. Yes, it shows that the economy is going up, but it also, as we talked about there, when the number of people in a country goes up, demand for housing goes up, and demand for apartments go up, and prices go up, and it becomes less affordable for ordinary working people. And also, when there's a large oversupply of unskilled labour, It's been shown in economic terms that wages go down. So more expensive houses, less wages is not a good recipe in the long term. And yes, they may say there's more cake, but there's more mouths to feed. So in regards per capita income, it doesn't necessarily, more workers isn't necessarily a bounty for Ireland. We spoke earlier before this.
Lots of issues as well.
Yeah, we spoke earlier actually about, and I was in favour of the work permit system. Many countries, like if you want to go to Australia, there's a point system where you go in, you have to show that you're of good character, you've no criminal record, you've got qualifications, you can contribute to the country that you're entering into. And the work permit system, I think, is very good, because sometimes for various reasons we need highly qualified people, and you know what, there's a lot of very highly qualified people out there. For example, computer software engineers, etc., from India are very highly in demand around the world. We give these people an opportunity to come to Ireland, be well paid, live in a friendly country, have a good time with their family. One thing we'd say is that the work permit system should be tied. They have a temporary residence for 5 years or 10 years, and they take the money that they've earned and they go back to their own country, or they go to another country, wherever they like. But we just can't have a free-for-all. At the moment, I give the example on Sunday night, that it was just in the breaking news there last week, that 4,007 men and women came into Dublin Airport last year seeking asylum. So it meant that 85% of all the people who applied for asylum at Dublin Airport had no documentation, had no passport. Like, it is absolute madness. And I know that Sean Gilliland is a former Garda. He should know that allowing in a large number of people when we don't know who their name, the country that they're from, or if they do have a criminal record, that in security terms, it's just not safe. And we would like simply to know, who are these people, where they're from, do they have a criminal record, can they contribute to the country? And yeah, happy days. Work permit system on a temporary residence basis, we are happy to take them if we need them. But long term, I think we should try to encourage, the Irish government should be trying to encourage and give a possibility, an opportunity for Irish young people to remain in Ireland, and for those who are abroad to come back to Ireland.
I understand you put your name forward, under the Irish Freedom Party for a candidate in the upcoming European elections for Midlands Northwest.
Yes.
Is the party, centred more just around the immigration issue, or what other issues?
No,
are very much at the
no. It actually started off more to do with sovereignty. Actually, 5 years ago, and saying that we couldn't afford EU membership anymore. We're a net contributor for 10 years. Like, for example, on fishing, I know it's not a big issue in Monaghan. Maybe pike fishing or trout fishing is more, and Monaghan and Cavan. But like, as an EU member, Irish fishing boats get only 15% of all quota caught in Irish waters. We have a huge economic, vast maritime resources, 200 nautical miles west of Ireland, and yet we're an island nation, yet we get a mere 15% of all fish caught in Irish waters. I believe that's a scandal. And we don't believe in the climate alarmism. We believe that carbon dioxide, for example, is good, it's plant food, it's necessary for photosynthesis. We don't accept that it is the man-made CO2, which is only 3% of all CO2 in the atmosphere, and CO2 is only 421 parts per million in the atmosphere. Anyway, we don't believe that CO2 content or man-made CO2 is the cause of climate change. We believe that climate change has always happened, will always happen, and the main driver is proximity to the sun and sunspots. We are opposed to we believe that the carbon tax, for example, is unjust, and it's also unnecessary. We don't believe it's right that people on low incomes, with low disposable incomes, should be, like, for example, the carbon tax makes their milk and their meat more expensive. It pushes up the price of their petrol and diesel to drive to work. For young people, for old people, it pushes up the price of heating oil to heat their home. And we believe it's very unfair on those on low incomes, and we believe it's unnecessary. And for example, In December of last year, every Irish MEP voted to give the European Parliament a mandate to negotiate the nature restoration law, which would mean the re-wetting of reclaimed bogs in Ireland, and some of them like up to 25% by 2030 and by 50% by 2050. We believe that this would be hugely damaging to rural Ireland. It would take a lot of arable land out of circulation. It would reduce hugely the cattle herd. And you know what? Irish beef is hugely popular around the world. It's a great export for Ireland, and we should be actually looking to increase production in rural Ireland rather than, as the EU seems intent on doing at the minute, to destroy rural Ireland and turn it into a theme park for South Dublin bike riders.
I suppose, and then maybe just finally, a busy few months ahead now then, as you said, as the contesting in the Midlands Northwest region.
Yes, we're out every Saturday and Sunday, at least, myself and a team and other teams around the country. I'm campaigning every Saturday and Sunday, and come May and April, I suspect I'll be taking off 2 months holiday and I'll be just campaigning full time for the European election. We have 3 candidates in 3 constituencies, and we also have at the minute 15 local election candidates around the country, and we're going to have more because there's a process of candidates coming on. So I would ask people to have a look at our policies at irishfreedom.ie, look at our social media, and look at it with an open mind. We believe we are a classically liberal party, believe in free speech, smaller taxation, personal freedom, personal responsibility. We don't believe in the big state dictating to people how they should live their lives. And that we believe it, as said, Irish people are good enough to make our own laws and decide our own destiny in this world. And there's a great future ahead for Ireland if we put our heads to our shoulders to the task.